the little British multi-tool Tiny Tim Pidcock is enjoying a triple celebration this week. Not only has he turned 25 years old, but he's done so without that damnable COVID-19 affecting his lungs. And of course, he can enjoy a new Olympic gold medal hanging around his neck, thanks to an exhibition in the mountain bike event. Despite suffering a puncture at the beginning of the race and losing 40 seconds to the also COVID-sick and French, therefore protected in these Olympic Games, Victor Koretsky, Tiny Tim was able to overtake all other participants with exhibition-worthy descents to make a brutal pass in the final meters of the Frenchman, and enjoying that precious medal being hung around his neck, accompanied by the booing of the Gallic public. Such bad losers. However, this is the second time that Tiny Tim Pidcock has become an Olympic champion after suffering an illness only weeks before the start of the event, and then being isolated from the press and all the noise, but still performing a very good stealth preparation. How does he do it? Subscribe to the channel to find out this and other pro cycling secrets. And now, let's travel back 6 years in time, when our little star makes his pro debut in the ranks of a drunken ex-champions team. Tiny Tim Pidcock had stood out with his brother under the protection of Dad Giles, a failed former racing cyclist who wanted his sons to fulfill his frustrated dream of becoming a good professional. Tiny Tim, with all the financial support of Dad, started to excel in all kinds of disciplines, becoming a tiny multi-tool whilst just a teenager, and that caught the attention of one of the biggest vipers of professional cycling, Andrew McQuaid. This shady Irish character is the son of one of the biggest scumbags in the history of the sport, the illustrious Pat McQuaid, president of the UCI from the first retirement of low-cost Lance until his confession on Oprah 8 years later. Thanks to Dad's contacts, Andy started collecting toys in the form of professional cyclists, like his namesake character from the movie Toy Story. Many cycling stars became part of his portfolio of representation. A Welsh alcoholic, an alleged murderer of Melissa Hoskins, a doped-up man selling hypoxic dreams, or his blind compatriot who didn't see doping in the stable of the doped-up hipster voters, among others. All these riders had one thing in common: protection from the UCI in certain respects, and perhaps that's why Tiny Tim Pidcock chose Trinity Sports' Viper McQuaid as his representative. Together, they decided to embark on a path alongside other stars of the current peloton, such as Rabobank's new superstar, Thomas Gloag, or our dyed-in-the-wool, blonde bombshell, tireless Benny Hilly, or Sky's trotter, Ben Turner. Andy McQuaid knew perfectly well that thanks to Dad Pats, that one of the epicenters of performance improvement worldwide is in a small Spanish town, Girona. And there, Tiny Tim began, as did low-cost Lance, George Hincapie, Matthew Barry, and so many dopers of the epocha, to do training that would turn him into a true superstar. Suddenly, he went from being a tiny multi-tool to a multi-tool capable of winning championships in cyclocross, mountain biking, the Tour d'Alsace, Paris-Roubaix under-23, or the Baby Giro d'Italia in 2 magical seasons for the Trinity team, with Andy McQuaid as team manager, and Benny Hilly as star gregario, and Tiny Tim Pidcock as the main character. Preparations full of innovation in nutrition and cycling techniques, all carried out in the Catalan paradise of the Danish, because you know there's always a Dane in our videos. In this case, Johnny Veltz. Now you know about Tiny Tim Pidcock's transition to professionalism and his successes in the Sky team, but do you know how he prepared for his success in the Tokyo 2021 and Paris 2024 Olympic Games? Although Tiny Tim still lives close to Daddy Giles in Leeds, the little big downhiller of the Sky team loves to spend time in the Pyrenees, specifically between Andorra, the tax haven full of YouTubers whose anti-doping measures are not yet up to par with the massive number of cyclists residing there, and the vicinity of Girona, specifically in the small town of Llibia. In the Andorran tax haven, Tiny Tim got hold of a tiny apartment where, in the middle of July, at 35 degrees Celsius, in a tiny room of 8 square meters, he climbed on top of his stationary bike, got inside a plastic cover, plugged in a heater next to a basin of water, and filled the room with steam to generate a humidity similar to that of Tokyo or, indeed, Paris. In Llibia, Tiny Tim was preparing with former world mountain bike champion and Spanish Olympic medalist José Antonio Hermida, a man with many contacts in Catalonia. For Hermida, it was a pleasure to train with Tiny Tim. He considered him to be like a machine, a robot on a bike, and that while he competed simply with 2 plates of pasta a day, Pidcock measures all aspects of nutrition. Like all the stars of his generation, he pays close attention to the technology of the bikes and, well, you know, all the marginal gains that the bald knight of the realm will have told him about during these years. The problem is that the diminutive MBE always seems to have misfortunes befall him when he's in the area, and always weeks before the Olympic Games. In 2021, it was an accident whilst training in Andorra, and he broke his collarbone into 5 pieces. But in just 6 weeks, enjoying one of those miraculous recoveries that science today allows, the grumpy guy in the hospital in Girona who didn't even want to see Andy McQuaid because he was so angry, like Woody in the original Pixar movie, well, he was back on his bike. And soon afterwards, he was winning Olympic gold by crushing the opposition in Tokyo. In 2024, just as he was closing in on his beloved Andorra and Girona, in Po, he mysteriously abandoned the Tour de France, where he'd been second in Tignes, and all because of that cursed COVID-19. The same virus that the great stars focusing Evenepoel and the alien Poggi had to endure just weeks before their maximum objectives of the season in France. The same virus that healed again in Girona under Hermida's training, and all the very good treatments that George and Andy's boys received every time they passed through the small Catalan territory. Weeks later, Tiny Tim once again was flying over the rocks in Paris. And not only that, he also said that if he wasn't fighting for the medals in the road race, it would only be because the course was simply not hard enough for him. So here endeth the first lesson of the many that we will tell you about Tiny Tim Pidcock. The first lesson is indeed make sure you have good contacts in professional cycling. Your path will be far smoother and much, much easier. Now, while you're here, check out the video on the screen. You will love it.